Christmas morning is supposed to feel warm, safe, full of loves. That morning, it felt cold. I woke up before the alarm, the way I always did on Christmas Day. The room was quiet, too quiet. The kind of quiet that makes your chest feel heavy before your mind understands why. I lay there for a moment, staring at the ceiling, listening to my husband's breathing beside me. Slow, even, peaceful. Too peaceful. I turned my head and looked at him. His back was facing me. He used to sleep facing me, his arm thrown over my waist like he was afraid I might disappear if he let go. Now there was space between us, a thin line of empty mattress that felt wider than an ocean. I told myself not to think too much. It was Christmas. I wanted it to be normal. I got out of bed quietly and wrapped my robe around me. The house smelled like pine from the tree in the living room and cinnamon from the candles I had lit the night before. I had tried so hard to make everything perfect. The decorations, the food, the gifts wrapped with careful hands and hopeful thoughts. I wanted this Christmas to fix us. I walked into the kitchen and started the coffee. My phone buzzed on the counter. One notification. Then another. Then another. All from the same number. I froze. Something inside me tightened. I didn't know why yet, but my body knew before my heart did. I stared at the phone like it might explode. I told myself it was nothing. Work, a friend, anyone. But my hand was shaking when I picked it up. The screen lit up. A message preview appeared. Last night was amazing. I can't stop thinking about you. My breath left my body in one sharp rush. I read it again. And again. The name wasn't saved, just a number, but the message didn't need a name. It said everything it needed to say. I felt dizzy. The room tilted slightly, like the floor had shifted under my feet. I grabbed the counter to steady myself. No, I whispered. No, no, no. My fingers moved before my brain could stop them. I unlocked his phone. I knew his passcode. Of course I did. We were married. There were no secrets. At least that's what I believed. The messages loaded slowly. Each second felt like a lifetime. Then they appeared. Pages of messages, photos, voice notes, plans, laughing emojis, inside jokes I had never heard before, promises, complaints about me, about our marriage, about how lonely he felt, about how she understood him. She. The word burned. I scrolled and scrolled, my heart pounding so loud I was sure it would wake him up. My hands felt numb, like they didn't belong to me anymore. One message stood out. Can't believe you went home to play happy husband today. You owe me. I looked at the time. Sent at 6:12 a.m. That was 10 minutes ago. While I was making coffee. While the Christmas lights blinked softly in the living room. While the world pretended everything was beautiful. I heard footsteps behind me. Morning, he said, his voice sleepy and casual. I turned slowly. He smiled, that same smile I had fallen in love with years ago, the smile I trusted, the smile that made me feel safe. Merry Christmas, he said. Something broke inside me. I held up the phone with shaking hands. Who is she? His smile vanished. The color drained from his face so fast it almost scared me. For a second, he didn't say anything. He just stared at the phone, then at me, like a child caught stealing. Give me that, he said, reaching for it. I pulled it back. No, you don't get to take this away, not today. He ran a hand through his hair. He looked annoyed. Not guilty, annoyed. It's not what you think, he said. That sentence. The oldest lie in the world. I laughed, but the sound came out broken. Really, because it looks exactly like what I think. He sighed. You're overreacting. It was just something that happened. Something. I stared at him, something that happened on Christmas. He shrugged. It didn't mean anything. That hurt more than if he had admitted he loved her. Didn't mean anything. So what did I mean? I felt my face burn. Tears filled my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Not yet, not in front of him. Did you think of me? I asked quietly, even once. He looked away. That was my answer. I sank into the chair at the kitchen table, my legs suddenly too weak to hold me. The chair I had sat on for years, planning meals, paying bills, dreaming about our future. It felt like a stranger now. I did everything for this family, I said, my voice shaking. I stood by you when you had nothing. I believed in you when no one else did. He crossed his arms, defensive. You're making this bigger than it needs to be. I looked up at him slowly. You cheated on me on Christmas Day. He rolled his eyes. Can we not do this today? I don't want drama. Drama? The word felt like a slap. I stood up again, my hands clenched into fists. You brought drama into our bed, into our home, into my life. He exhaled sharply. What do you want me to say? I waited. I'm sorry, he said flatly. 2 words, empty, lifeless, like he was reading them off a script. I nodded slowly. That's it. What more do you want? He snapped. It's done, it happened, we can move on. Move on. Like it was nothing. Like my heart hadn't just been ripped apart on the one day of the year that was supposed to mean love and family. I felt small, so small, like I had shrunk into myself, like all the years I had given him had been erased in a single morning. I walked past him and into the living room. The Christmas tree stood there, glowing softly, gifts stacked neatly underneath. Gifts I had wrapped with care. Gifts I had bought with money I saved by skipping things for myself. I picked up one of his gifts, a watch he had mentioned months ago. I had smiled when I bought it, imagining his face when he opened it. My hands trembled as I set it back down. Behind me, he cleared his throat. Listen, I'm going out for a bit. I need air. I turned. You're leaving. Yes. On Christmas. He grabbed his jacket. I'll be back later. The door closed behind him with a dull thud. And just like that, I was alone. The silence rushed in, thick, heavy, crushing. I stood there for a long time, staring at the tree, the lights blurring through my tears. My chest hurt like someone was pressing down on it with both hands. I sank to the floor. That's where I finally let myself cry. I cried for the woman I used to be. For the future I thought I had. For the love I gave so freely to someone who didn't protect it. At some point, my phone buzzed again. I ignored it. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I didn't want comfort. I didn't want advice. I wanted the pain to stop, but I also didn't want to pretend it didn't exist. I wiped my face and slowly got up. That's when I noticed it. A small envelope tucked behind the tree, not under it, behind it. I frowned. I was sure I had placed all the gifts neatly under the tree. This one was different. Plain, no wrapping paper, no tag. Just an envelope. My name was written on it in neat handwriting. I stared at it for a long moment. I didn't open it yet. I didn't know then that this envelope would change everything. I didn't know that this Christmas betrayal was the beginning of my freedom. I only knew that my life had just split into 2 parts. Before this moment, and everything that would come after. And somewhere deep inside the pain, a quiet voice whispered something I wasn't ready to understand yet. This is not the end. I didn't open the envelope. Not yet. I don't know why. Maybe because I was scared. Maybe because it felt like the only thing in the house that didn't hurt me yet. Everything else had turned sharp. The tree lights looked fake. The ornaments looked like props. Even the smell of cinnamon felt like a lie. So I left the envelope where it was, behind the tree, like it was waiting for the right moment. And then I did what I always did when life felt too heavy. I cleaned. I picked up the torn tissue paper from the floor. I straightened the pillows. I wiped the kitchen counter like the betrayal had left fingerprints. I moved like a robot because if I stopped moving, I would fall apart again. My eyes kept drifting to the clock. Every minute felt slow. He said he would be back later. He didn't say where he was going. But I knew. I didn't have proof, but I had a feeling that burned like fire in my chest. The kind of feeling that doesn't need proof. The kind of feeling that makes your stomach twist and your hands cold. I sat on the edge of the couch and stared at the Christmas tree again. I remembered last Christmas. He had lifted me off the ground, spun me around, and laughed into my hair. He had kissed my forehead and said, "You're my home." This year, he left me like I was nothing. I hated how much that hurt. Because a part of me still wanted to believe he'd come back, sit beside me, cry, and tell me he was sorry in a way that actually meant something. But another part of me was waking up. And that part wasn't soft. That part was angry. I stood up and walked to the kitchen. The coffee I made earlier had gone cold. I poured it down the sink and watched it swirl away like my whole marriage was disappearing down a drain. My phone buzzed. This time I looked. It was my mother. I didn't answer. Not because I didn't love her. I did, but I wasn't ready to speak. I wasn't ready to say the words out loud. My husband cheated on me. On Christmas. Saying it out loud would make it real in a way I wasn't prepared to handle. So I put my phone face down. Then it buzzed again. A message. From him. Don't start telling people stuff. We'll talk when I'm back. I stared at the screen. I read it twice to be sure. No, are you okay? No, I'm sorry. Just a warning. Like I was the problem. My hands clenched so tight my nails dug into my skin. So this was who he was now. Not the man I married. Not the man I trusted. This was someone who cared more about his image than my heart. I started walking around the house, and that's when the memories hit me like waves. Not happy memories. The little moments I ignored. The late nights at work. The phone turned face down. The sudden passwords. The way he stopped looking at me when I talked. The way he'd sigh like I was annoying him, even when I was simply asking about his day. I had blamed myself. I had told myself I wasn't fun enough. Not pretty enough. Not exciting enough. I had tried harder. I changed my hair. I bought new clothes. I cooked his favorite meals. I smiled even when I was tired. I did everything to keep him. And now I realized something that made me feel sick. He didn't want to be kept. He wanted to be chased. He wanted power. He wanted me to beg. My throat tightened. I walked into our bedroom. The bed was still messy from the morning. The blanket was twisted. His pillow looked untouched, like he didn't really sleep, like he was already somewhere else, even before he left. I opened the closet. His clothes hung there in neat lines, like he was still a good husband, like the fabric could hide his choices. I reached for his jacket, the one he wore when he wanted to look charming. The one he wore to parties, dinners, and events. I smelled it. A light perfume. Not mine. My stomach turned. I dropped it like it burned my hands. That's when I felt my knees go weak again. I sat on the floor. Right there in the closet. And I finally whispered the truth to myself. He chose someone else. My voice cracked. The words hurt coming out. I wanted to scream. I wanted to break something. I wanted to throw every ornament off the tree. I wanted to rip the gifts open and set them on fire. But I didn't. I just sat there and cried quietly, with my face buried in my hands, because even my anger felt tired. After a while, I heard something. A car door. My heart jumped so fast it almost hurt. He's back. I stood up quickly, wiped my face, and walked into the living room. My chest was tight. I didn't know what I was about to see, but I prepared myself for excuses, for lies, for acting like everything was normal. The front door opened. He walked in. And he didn't look guilty. He looked relaxed. Like he'd just enjoyed a nice day out. He didn't even look at the tree. He didn't look at the gifts. He didn't look at me like I mattered. He took off his jacket, tossed it on the chair, and said, "Can we just calm down now?" That sentence made my blood boil. "Calm down," I repeated. He rubbed his forehead. "Yes, calm down. You're acting like this is the end of the world." I stared at him. My voice came out steady, even though my hands were shaking. "You cheated on me, and you're telling me to calm down." He sighed like I was a child. I said it didn't mean anything. I stepped closer. "Then why did you do it?" He paused. Then he said something that changed me. Something I will never forget. "Because it was easy." Easy. Like I was a chore. Like I was a job he didn't want to do anymore. Like my love was boring. I felt my face heat up with humiliation. My eyes stung, but I refused to cry. Not now, not in front of him. "So I'm not easy?" I asked, my voice low. He shrugged. "You're always emotional, always serious, always making everything heavy. I laughed, but it wasn't funny. Heavy, you mean like a marriage, like vows, like loyalty? He stepped past me, toward the kitchen, and poured himself water like this was a normal conversation. Like my heart wasn't cracking in half. Then he said, "Look, let's be real. This marriage hasn't been good for a while." My chest tightened. "So you decided cheating was the answer?" He drank his water and said, "I didn't want to fight with you. I didn't want drama." I felt like my whole body was shaking inside. "You didn't want drama, so you broke me." He slammed the glass down, suddenly annoyed. "Stop talking like a victim." Those words hit me harder than anything else. Stop talking like a victim. I stared at him, speechless. Because I wasn't just talking like a victim. I was one. He had made me one. And he was standing there, telling me not to sound hurt, when he was the reason I was hurting. My voice came out quieter, dangerous. "Do you hear yourself?" He rolled his eyes. "Here we go again." He walked toward the living room and gestured at the gifts. "You wanted this perfect Christmas. You always want some movie scene. It's not real." I looked at the tree. The lights blinked softly. A stupid, harmless little glow. But now it felt like it was mocking me. I walked to the gifts and picked up the biggest one I had wrapped for him, the one with the neatest bow, the one I had been proud of. I held it in my hands. He looked at it and smiled a little, like he still expected it. "See," he said like he'd won, "this is what I'm talking about. Let's not ruin it." I stared at him. Then I dropped the gift on the floor. The sound was dull, but the moment was loud. His smile disappeared. "Are you serious?" he snapped. I looked him in the eyes. "You ruined it, not me." His jaw tightened. "So what now? You're going to act crazy and throw a tantrum." Crazy. Tantrum. He had words for everything except responsibility. I felt something shift in me. It was like my heart finally stopped begging. Like my body finally stopped hopping. A quiet, cold clarity slid into place. I didn't need him to admit anything. I didn't need him to care. Because he wouldn't. My voice came out calm. "I want you to tell me her name." He laughed once, short and sharp. "No." I blinked. "No." He leaned against the wall like he was bored. "You're not going to call her. You're not going to message her. You're not going to embarrass me." Embarrass him. That's what he cared about. Not the fact that he humiliated me. Not the fact that he broke our vows. Not the fact that he shattered my trust on Christmas. He only cared about being embarrassed. I nodded slowly. And it hit me. He wasn't ashamed of cheating. He was afraid of consequences. I stood there, staring at him, and a strange calm settled over me. Because in that moment, I realized something terrifying and freeing. I had been living my life trying to keep a man who didn't respect me. I had been shrinking myself to make him comfortable. I had been carrying the marriage like a heavy bag on my back while he walked free. And now he was telling me not to embarrass him. The humiliation rose up in my throat. Not just humiliation from the cheating. Humiliation from how long I had accepted small disrespect, again and again, like it was normal. I thought about all the times he ignored my feelings. All the times he made me feel too much. All the times he made me apologize for having needs. It wasn't just one betrayal. It was years of quiet betrayal. And Christmas was simply the day it finally showed its face. My voice was soft but firm. "I'm not going to beg you." He smirked. "Good, because I'm not going to deal with that." I nodded again. "Fine." Then I walked away from him. Not to run, not to hide. To think. To breathe. I went to the bathroom and locked the door. And for the first time that day, I looked at myself in the mirror. My eyes were red, my cheeks were blotchy, my hair was messy. But something else was there too. A look I hadn't seen in a long time. Anger. Not wild anger. Focused anger. The kind that says, "Enough." I leaned closer to the mirror and whispered, "I will not let this destroy me." My voice trembled, but I meant it. Then I turned on the faucet and splashed water on my face, forcing myself to breathe. In. Out. In. Out. I couldn't control what he did. But I could control what I did next. I unlocked the bathroom door and walked back into the living room. He was sitting on the couch now, scrolling on his phone like nothing happened. Like I was a storm that would pass. I looked at him for a moment. Then I looked at the tree. And my eyes went to the back of it. The envelope. Still there. Still waiting. My heart beat faster. Because suddenly, that envelope wasn't just a mystery. It was a lifeline. A sign. A secret that belonged to me, not him. I walked toward the tree slowly. He didn't even notice. I reached behind the branches and pulled it out. My name stared back at me in neat writing. I held it in my hands, and I felt something I hadn't felt all day. Curiosity. Hope. Tiny, fragile hope. My husband looked up. What's that? I didn't answer. I just stared at the envelope like it was speaking to me. He stood up. Hey, what is that? His voice changed, suddenly alert, suddenly interested. That made my stomach tight. Because why would he care? Unless he knew what it was. Unless it mattered. I stepped back a little, holding it closer to my chest. It's mine, I said quietly. He took a step toward me. Let me see. The old version of me would have handed it over. The old version of me would have tried to keep peace. But the old version of me had been broken today. So I shook my head. No. His eyes narrowed. What do you mean no? I swallowed. I mean no. He stared at me like he didn't recognize me. Then he laughed, but it sounded forced. Come on, don't start being dramatic again. I didn't move. My hand gripped the envelope. It was just paper. But it felt like power. He reached for it. I stepped back quickly. Don't. His face hardened. Why are you acting like that? Because I finally saw you. That's what I wanted to say. But I didn't. I just looked at him and said, this is the first thing today that belongs to me. He stared. The room went quiet. Only the Christmas lights blinked softly, unaware of the war happening in the air between us. He took a breath like he was trying to control himself. Fine, open it then. My fingers trembled. I looked down at the envelope. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. And suddenly, I understood something. Christmas wasn't over. The betrayal was real, yes. But so was this moment. And somehow, even in the middle of my pain, the world was handing me a choice. Stay broken. Or become someone new. I stared at the seal of the envelope. And I made a decision. Not about him. About me. I lifted the flap. And just as I was about to open it, my husband's voice cut through the room, sharp and low. Stop, don't. I froze. Because whatever was inside that envelope, he didn't want me to see it. And that was the moment I realized. This wasn't just a Christmas gift. This was a secret. A secret big enough to scare him. And I was done being scared. His voice was low, sharp, almost like a warning. Stop, don't. I froze with the envelope in my hands, half open, my fingers caught between the paper flap and whatever truth was hiding inside. The room felt smaller suddenly, like the air had been pulled out. The Christmas lights blinked on and off, soft and innocent, like they didn't understand what was happening. The tree stood in the corner like a silent witness. I looked up at him. He wasn't calm anymore. His eyes were wide, and his face had changed. His mouth was tight, and his jaw looked like it was made of stone. Why, I asked, my voice quiet but shaking, why don't you want me to open it? He took a step closer. Because it's not important. I stared at him. Not important. This man cheated on me, came home like nothing happened, and now he suddenly cared about an envelope. My heart beat hard, slow and heavy. Move, I said. He blinked, surprised. What? I said move, I repeated. I'm opening it. He stepped forward again, and his hand lifted like he was going to take it from me. I stepped back fast, holding the envelope close to my chest. Don't touch it, I said. His voice rose slightly. What are you doing? Why are you acting like this? I laughed once, but it wasn't funny. Why am I acting like this? You cheated on me today. You told me to calm down. You told me not to embarrass you. You tried to control what I do and what I say. and now you want to control what I open." His eyes narrowed. "You're being ridiculous." "No," I said, my voice surprised even me. It sounded stronger than I felt. "I'm finally being awake." He stared at me like he didn't recognize me. That was fine. I didn't recognize him either. My fingers slid under the paper again. The envelope made a soft, tearing sound as it opened more. His eyes went to the envelope like it was dangerous. He swallowed. That tiny motion told me everything. He knew what was inside. And he didn't want me to see it. My stomach tightened, but I didn't stop. I pulled out the first thing I touched, a folded letter. It wasn't from him. I could tell instantly because the handwriting was different. Neat, careful, feminine. My name was written at the top in the same handwriting as the front of the envelope. My full name. Like it mattered. Like I mattered. My hands shook as I unfolded the letter. He took another step toward me, faster now. "Give me that," he said. I backed up until my knees touched the edge of the couch. "No," I said again, "not anymore." I lowered my eyes to the letter and started reading. The words blurred at first because my eyes were still wet from earlier. I blinked hard and forced myself to focus. The letter began with 4 words that made my throat tight. "My dear sweet girl." I stopped breathing. My chest hurt. Because I knew that voice. I hadn't heard it in years. It was from my grandmother. My grandma Amina. She wasn't my real grandmother by blood. She was my mother's aunt, but she raised me like I was her own. She used to call me her sweet girl when I was little. She'd say it when she brushed my hair, when she packed my lunch, when she held my hands and told me I could become anything. She passed away 3 years ago. I stared at the letter like it couldn't be real. I looked at my husband. His face looked stiff, like he had just been caught hiding something huge. I turned back to the letter and read again, slower. "My dear sweet girl. If you are reading this, it means you are at a crossroads. It means life has tested you in a way you did not deserve, and it means you need a reminder of who you are." My breath shook. How did she know? How did she know that one day I would be standing here, broken and angry and confused, holding a secret behind a Christmas tree? My hands tightened on the paper. I kept reading. "I have watched you grow into a woman who gives too much. You forgive too fast. You stay too long. You carry pain like it is your job. You think love means you must suffer." The words hit me like a slap. Not a cruel slap. A wake-up slap. A truth slap. I swallowed, my mouth suddenly dry. My husband moved again. "Stop reading that." I didn't even look up this time. I read louder. Not to yell, but to claim the moment. "I am leaving you a gift, not for luxury, not for anyone to control, not for a man to decide. This gift is for your freedom." My eyes filled again. I blinked hard. The paper shook. My voice came out cracked. "Grandma." My husband's voice sounded tense. "You don't understand what that is." I finally looked at him. "You mean you do," I said. "You understand exactly what it is. That's why you hid it." He flinched. I looked back down. The letter continued. "There is $50,000 set aside in your name. It is yours. I left it with someone I trusted to deliver it to you when you needed it most. If you are reading this, then you need it now." For a second, my brain didn't work. I read it again. $50,000. I whispered it like it was impossible. 50,000. My knees went weak. I sat down slowly on the couch, still holding the letter like it might disappear if I let go. $50,000. That kind of money was not a small thing. That kind of money wasn't a nice surprise. That kind of money could change everything. I thought about all the times I wanted to take a course but didn't, because money was tight. All the times I wanted to start something of my own, but I told myself it was not the right time. All the times I stayed quiet because I depended on him financially in little ways I didn't even admit to myself. And now, there was $50,000. In my name. My chest felt tight and light at the same time. I looked up at my husband again. His face was pale now. He wasn't angry. He was scared. That scared me too. Where is it? I asked, my voice low. He shook his head quickly. This is insane, this is not. Where is it? I asked again, louder. He clenched his jaw. I don't know. I laughed once, bitter. Liar. He snapped, don't call me that. I stood up slowly, still holding the letter. You hid this behind the tree. You didn't want me to open it. You told me to stop. You told me it wasn't important. Don't sit there and pretend you don't know. His eyes darted around like he was thinking fast. Then he said, it's not your money. I stared. I actually stared like my brain was trying to understand how a human being could say something like that. What? I whispered. He stepped forward, voice rising. It's not your money, it's complicated. It was left in the house and... I held up the letter between us. It says, in your name, it says it is yours. He scoffed, but it sounded fake. People write things, that doesn't mean. I cut him off. Enough. My voice didn't shake this time. I kept reading, because I needed to hear her words fully. Sweet girl, I know this world can be cruel to women who love deeply. Some people will use your kindness like a door they can walk through. But I want you to remember this. Your kindness is not weakness. The only mistake is giving it to those who do not deserve it. My throat burned. Tears ran down my face quietly, but I didn't wipe them. I didn't care anymore. Not about looking strong, not about looking pretty, not about looking calm. I cared about truth. I cared about freedom. I cared about my life. I read the next line. If anyone tries to stop you from taking this gift, if anyone tries to claim it, if anyone tries to make you feel guilty for using it, then you already have your answer about who they are. I looked at him. He stood there silent. The words felt like my grandmother was standing in the room with us, pointing straight at him. I took a shaky breath and reached into the envelope again. There was more inside. A smaller paper. Thicker. I pulled it out. My eyes landed on a printed document with a logo at the top. A bank draft. A cashier's check. My breath caught. Pay to the order of my name. Amount $50,000. I felt like the world stopped. The room went quiet in my ears, like someone had turned down the sound. My hands shook so hard I almost dropped it. I held it up, staring. $50,000. Real, printed, signed. Not a dream. Not a story. Not a maybe someday. It was right there. My husband's face twisted. Put that down, he said. I didn't. Put it down, he repeated louder. I still didn't. He took a step toward me, and for the first time that day, I saw something in him that wasn't just selfish. It was desperate. He said, you can't just take that and run. Run. Like I was a thief. Like I was stealing something that belonged to him. I held the check tighter. It's in my name. He snapped, it was in the house. And I shot back. He pointed toward the check like it insulted him. You don't even know what it's for. You don't know what it could affect. I stared at him. What could it affect? Your cheating schedule. His face hardened. Watch your mouth. I took a step forward, not afraid now. Watch your life. That made him go still. Because I had never spoken to him like that. I had always been careful. Always polite. Always trying not to push him. But today, he pushed me off a cliff. And I was done falling quietly. I looked back down at the letter and finished it. Use this money to build your life. Use it to learn, to move, to start over if you must. Use it to remember your worth. And please, my sweet girl, promise me one thing. My heart thumped. I read the last line. Promise me you will never beg anyone to choose you. I broke. Not in a weak way. In a releasing way. Like a knot inside my chest finally loosened. I pressed the letter to my heart for a second, breathing through the pain and the shock and the strange warmth spreading through me. Then I looked at my husband. He was staring at the check like it was a weapon. And maybe it was. Because money is more than money sometimes. Sometimes money is a door. And he didn't want me to have a door. I lifted my chin. How long have you had this? He looked away. I stepped closer. How long? He didn't answer. My voice rose. How long have you been hiding something that belongs to me? His shoulders tensed. I wasn't hiding it. I held the check up. It was behind the tree. He snapped. I was going to give it to you. I let out a slow laugh. When, next Christmas, after you left me, after you drained me emotionally and financially and then told everyone I was too sensitive. He took a step forward, and his voice became low, almost threatening. You're not thinking clearly. I stared at him. No, for the first time in years I am thinking clearly. He tried a different approach then, a softer tone. The one he used when he wanted to control, without looking like he was controlling. Listen, he said, we can talk about this. We can work things out, we can use it together, fix things. Together? That word almost made me laugh again. Together? He cheated on Christmas Day and now wanted to be together because he saw money. The humiliation hit me again, sharp and bitter. Not because of the money. Because of how clear it was now. He didn't value me. He valued what he could take from me. I shook my head slowly. You don't want to fix us. He blinked. Yes, I do. I pointed to the check. You want that? His face changed. That tiny flicker of anger. That tiny flicker of truth. It confirmed everything. I inhaled. I'm going to the bank. His eyes widened. No. I stepped toward the hallway. Yes. He moved quickly and blocked my path. You're not leaving this house with that. My stomach dropped. I froze. Because for a second, I saw the situation clearly. This wasn't just an argument. This was control. This was him thinking he could physically stop me from taking what belonged to me. I felt fear rise up. But then, right behind the fear, something else rose too. A deeper strength. A quiet voice inside me. My grandmother's voice. Never beg anyone to choose you. I held the letter and check close and said, very calmly, move. He didn't. His eyes were hard. We need to talk first. I nodded slowly. Okay, we'll talk. His shoulders relaxed slightly, like he thought he won. Then I said, but not here. His brows pulled together. What? I lifted my phone from the side table. If you don't move, I'm calling someone right now. He scoffed. Who? Your mom. I stared him down. The police. Silence. Real silence this time. He didn't expect that. Because he thought I'd always keep things private. He thought I'd always protect him. He thought I'd always take pain quietly. But today, that version of me was dead. His face shifted, and for a moment he looked like he didn't know what to do. Then he stepped aside slowly, still watching me like I was doing something unforgivable. I walked past him, my legs shaking but my spine straight. I went into the bedroom and grabbed my bag. I didn't pack clothes. Not yet. I just grabbed my wallet, my keys, and my phone charger like my body was working on instinct. Then I went to the living room again. He stood near the tree, staring at the branches like he could rewind time. You're really doing this? He asked. I looked at him, and I surprised myself with how calm I sounded. Yes, I said, I am. He scoffed, so you're leaving me over money. I stared at him, almost shocked by how he could twist the truth. No, I said softly, I'm leaving you over respect. He laughed bitterly. You'll regret this. I nodded, maybe. Then I paused and added, but I won't regret choosing myself. His face tightened. I turned toward the door. My hand touched the doorknob. And then he said something that made my stomach turn again. You don't even know why she left it to you. I stopped. Slowly, I looked back. What do you mean? He hesitated, and I saw him calculating. Then he said, she didn't trust you. My heart thudded. That's a lie. He shrugged, trying to look casual. Maybe she knew you, waste it. Maybe she knew you, ruin your life with it. I stared at him. He was trying to poison the one pure thing left in my life today. I took a deep breath. Then I did something I hadn't done all day. I smiled. Not a happy smile. A knowing smile. You're scared, I said. His face tightened. You're scared because you thought you trapped me, I continued quietly. You thought I would stay no matter what you did. You thought I had no way out. He swallowed. I stepped closer, just one step. And now, I said, lifting the check slightly, you see a door opening. He stared at me, silent. I nodded slowly, and you hate it. His voice came out rough. You're making a mistake. I tilted my head, maybe. Then I opened the door. Cold air touched my face. The outside world waited. The sky was gray, the street was quiet, Christmas morning still looked normal to everyone else. But inside me, something had changed. I turned one last time. I'm not your wife right now, I said, simple and clear. I'm not your victim, I'm not your problem to manage. He stared, angry and helpless. I stepped out and closed the door behind me. And as I walked to my car, holding my grandmother's letter like it was a piece of my soul, I finally understood something. That envelope was not just money. It was a message. A rescue. A hand reaching from the past, pulling me toward a future I hadn't believed I deserved. I sat in the driver's seat and let out a shaky breath. My hands were still trembling. My heart was still bruised. But for the first time since morning, I felt something else under the pain. Power. I started the engine. And as the car pulled away from the house, I whispered to myself, like an oath, I'm going to find out who I am without him. And I drove straight toward the bank. Not knowing that what waited for me there would make everything even bigger than I imagined. The bank parking lot was almost empty. Most people were home opening gifts, laughing, eating warm food with family. I sat in my car with the engine off, staring at the building like it might disappear if I blinked. My hands were still shaking. Not from fear anymore. From everything crashing together at once. Betrayal. Shock. Anger. Hope. And something new. Control. I looked down at the envelope on my lap. My grandmother's handwriting stared back at me, calm and steady, like she had planned this moment years ago. You knew, I whispered, you knew I'd need this. I stepped out of the car and walked toward the entrance. The cold air stung my face, but I welcomed it. It kept me sharp, awake. Inside, the bank was quiet. Only one teller window was open. A woman in her 40s stood behind the counter, sipping coffee from a mug that said Believe. I almost laughed. I walked up slowly, my heart beating fast again. This wasn't just about money. This was about stepping into something I had never stepped into alone before. I need to deposit a check, I said. My voice sounded normal. Stronger than I expected. She smiled. Of course, may I see it? I slid the check across the counter. Her eyes widened just slightly when she saw the amount. She didn't comment. She didn't judge. She just nodded and typed something into her computer. May I see your ID? She asked. I handed it over. She compared my face to the photo, then to the name on the check. Everything matches, she said. Those words did something to me. Everything matches. For so long, nothing in my life felt like it matched. I had bent myself to fit someone else's expectations. I had twisted my needs into knots to keep peace. But now, my name matched. My future matched. My life was starting to line up. She printed a receipt and slid it toward me. The funds will be available shortly, she said. You're all set. That was it. No drama. No interrogation. No one asking if I deserved it. I picked up the receipt with trembling fingers and thanked her. As I turned away from the counter, my knees felt weak again. Not because I was about to fall. Because I realized something huge. I could leave. Not emotionally. Physically. I had options now. I sat back in my car and stared at the receipt. $50,000. Real. Mine. I laughed. A short, breathless laugh that surprised me. Then I cried. But this time, my tears were different. They weren't heavy. They weren't hopeless. They were release. I leaned my head back against the seat and let the tears fall freely, not wiping them away, not judging them. Okay, I whispered. Okay, what now? For the first time in years, the question didn't scare me. It excited me. I didn't go home. I couldn't. Not yet. Instead, I drove. No destination. Just movement. I needed space between myself and that house, that bed, that life. I drove past streets filled with decorations and families walking together, and instead of feeling lonely, I felt detached. Like I was watching a movie I was no longer part of. I pulled into a quiet park and parked the car. The trees stood bare, branches reaching into the gray sky. The benches were empty. Perfect. I got out, sat on one of the benches, and took the letter from my bag again. I read it slowly this time. Not through tears. Through clarity. Every word felt deliberate. Like my grandmother had seen the future and left me a map. I folded the letter carefully and put it back in the envelope. I promise, I whispered, I won't beg. My phone buzzed. His name flashed on the screen. Once. Twice. 3 times. I didn't answer. Then a message appeared. Where are you? Another one. This is not funny. Another. Come home, we need to talk. I stared at the screen. A week ago, that message would have made me panic. I would have rushed back, heart pounding, ready to explain myself, ready to smooth things over. Now, it felt small. Desperate. I typed one message back. I need space, do not contact me today. I turned my phone off. Not silent. Off. The quiet that followed felt powerful. I sat there for a long time, watching the wind move through the trees, letting my thoughts settle. I thought about who I was before him. Before I learned to shrink. Before I learned to apologize for wanting more. I thought about the dreams I had put on hold. The ideas I dismissed as unrealistic. The parts of myself I packed away because they didn't fit into the role of good wife. And slowly, something inside me shifted. I wasn't broken. I was buried. And now, I was digging myself out. I went to a small cafe nearby and ordered tea. I sat by the window, notebook open, pen in hand. I hadn't written anything for myself in years. I stared at the blank page. What do you want? I asked myself quietly. The answer didn't come right away. So I wrote the wrong things first. I wrote fear. I wrote anger. I wrote questions. Then, without thinking, my pen moved. I want my own place. I paused. Then I wrote another line. I want to learn something that belongs only to me. Another. I want to wake up without feeling anxious. Another. I want to trust myself again. My chest tightened. These weren't big dreams. They were basic needs. Needs I had ignored for too long. I closed the notebook and paid for my tea. The sun was starting to set when I finally drove back toward the house. I needed clothes. I needed documents. I needed my things. I parked outside and sat in the car for a moment, preparing myself. I didn't know what I would walk into. But I knew who I was walking in as. Not his wife begging for answers. Not a woman asking for permission. A woman taking her life back. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The house was quiet. Too quiet. The tree lights were off. The gifts were untouched. The place looked empty, like it already knew something was over. He was in the kitchen. He turned when he heard me. There you are, he said, relief and irritation mixed together. What is wrong with you? I didn't answer. I walked past him. Hey, he snapped, don't ignore me. I turned slowly. My voice was calm, I'm not here to argue. He scoffed, oh, so you're done playing dramatic now. I stared at him. Do you hear yourself? I asked. He shrugged, you disappeared, you took that money, you scared me. I almost laughed. You were scared, I repeated. He stepped closer. Yes, you can't just walk out like that. I nodded, I can. He clenched his jaw, this is our house. I met his eyes, it was our marriage, you ended that. Silence fell between us. Not tense. Final. I walked to the bedroom and pulled out a suitcase. He followed me, what are you doing? I'm packing, I said. For what? To leave. He laughed, sharp and bitter. You're overreacting, people cheat. Couples get past it. I folded clothes slowly, carefully. This isn't about cheating anymore. I said. It's about how you treated me when I found out. He rolled his eyes. Here we go again. I turned and looked at him fully. No, I said, here I go. That made him stop. I continued packing. He leaned against the doorframe. So that's it, you get some money and suddenly you're better than me. I paused. Then I answered honestly. No, I said, I got clarity, the money just made it possible. He laughed, you think money will save you? I zipped the suitcase. No, I think it will help me save myself. He stared at me like I was speaking another language. I walked past him with the suitcase. He followed. Where are you going? I have a hotel booked, I said. His eyes widened. A hotel? Yes. With whose money? I stopped, turned slowly, and said the words that felt like a door slamming shut. Mine. His face darkened. You're making a huge mistake. I nodded. I know, I should have left sooner. That silenced him. I grabbed my bag and headed for the door. Don't do this, he said, his voice changing. We can fix this. I'll stop seeing her. I turned back one last time. Listen to me carefully, I said. You didn't lose me because you cheated. You lost me because when I was bleeding, you told me to calm down. He didn't respond. I opened the door and walked out. The hotel room was small but clean. The bed was neatly made. The air smelled like fresh laundry. I dropped my bags and sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall. I felt exhausted, emotionally drained. But underneath it all, I felt free. That night, I slept deeply. No tossing. No turning. No waiting for footsteps or excuses. I woke up the next morning to sunlight pouring through the window. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel dread. I sat up, stretched and breathed. My phone was still off. I turned it on slowly. Dozens of messages. Missed calls. Voicemails. I didn't listen. I didn't read. I deleted them. All of them. Then I opened my notebook again. New page. I wrote one sentence at the top. This is my life now. And beneath it, I started to plan. Not revenge. Not arguments. Not explanations. A future. Step by step. Quietly. Powerfully. I didn't know yet how big my transformation would be. I didn't know where I would end up. But I knew one thing with absolute certainty. I was done surviving. I was ready to live. The first week after I left felt unreal. Like I was living inside someone else's life. I woke up each morning in the hotel room and had to remind myself where I was. The bed was different. The sounds were different. No familiar footsteps. No heavy sighs. No tension hanging in the air like a storm waiting to break. Just quiet. At first, the quiet scared me. I wasn't used to it. For years, my mind had been trained to stay alert, to listen for moods, to read faces, to prepare myself for arguments that came out of nowhere. Silence used to mean something bad was coming. Now silence meant peace. And my body didn't know what to do with that yet. I sat on the edge of the bed every morning and took a deep breath, reminding myself, I am safe. I am free. I chose this. The hotel staff started recognizing me. A soft good morning here, a polite smile there. No one asked questions, no one judged, I was just another guest. And for the first time in a long time, I liked being invisible. I spent the first few days doing very small things. Things that seemed normal to everyone else, but felt huge to me. I ate when I was hungry, not when it was time. I slept when I was tired, not when I was expected to. I watched whatever I wanted on TV without worrying if someone would complain. I ordered food without asking what anyone else felt like. It sounds simple, but it felt like learning how to breathe again. On the fourth day, I went apartment hunting. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't post anything. I just walked into leasing offices and asked questions. How much? What's included? How long is the lease? Each question made me feel stronger. I wasn't imagining a life anymore. I was building one. I found a small apartment on the third floor of a quiet building. Nothing fancy, clean walls, big windows, a tiny balcony that looked out over trees instead of traffic. When I stood inside it, something settled in my chest. This could be mine. No memories trapped in the walls. No raised voices echoing in the rooms. No walking on eggshells. Just space. I signed the lease the same day. My hands shook when I wrote my name, but I didn't stop. That night, I sat on the hotel bed and stared at the confirmation email. I had my own place. I laughed softly, covering my mouth like I was afraid someone would hear. Then I cried again. But this time, the tears felt proud. Moving day came fast. I bought only what I needed. A mattress. A table. A chair. Plates. A kettle. I didn't want clutter. I didn't want distractions. I wanted a clean start. The apartment echoed when I first walked in with my bags. My footsteps sounded loud on the empty floor. I stood in the middle of the living room and slowly turned in a circle. "This is mine," I whispered. No one corrected me. No one laughed. No one told me I was being dramatic. I sat on the floor with my back against the wall and smiled. That night, I slept on the mattress on the floor, wrapped in a blanket I bought myself. And for the first time, I slept without fear. The days that followed were quiet, but not empty. I started waking up early, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. I made tea and sat on the balcony, watching the leaves move in the morning light. I started journaling again. Not about him. About me. What I liked. What I missed. What I wanted to try. I realized something uncomfortable but honest. I didn't know myself anymore. I had spent so long being someone's wife that I forgot how to be just a woman. So I started small. I signed up for an online course I had always wanted to take but never did. Something practical, something that could grow into more. Every time I logged in, I felt nervous. What if I failed? Then I remembered all the years I survived something harder. Fear lost its power. I threw myself into learning. I took notes. I practiced. I made mistakes. I learned again. Each day, I felt a little taller. A little stronger. My phone stayed quiet most of the time. I had blocked his number. That decision alone felt like lifting a weight off my chest. Sometimes, late at night, doubt tried to creep in. What if I was wrong? What if I overreacted? What if I ended up alone forever? But then I'd remember his face when I found out. His cold words. His lack of regret. His fear not of losing me, but of losing control. And the doubt would fade. I wasn't lonely. I was healing. A month passed. Then two. And something strange happened. I started liking myself again. Not the version of me that tried too hard. Not the version that apologized for existing. But the quiet version. The thoughtful version. The woman who paid her own bills, made her own decisions, and didn't need permission to breathe. I noticed changes. I laughed more. I stood straighter. I stopped explaining myself so much. I even changed my hair, not because I was trying to impress anyone, but because I wanted to. One afternoon, I caught my reflection in a store window and stopped walking. I looked different. Not just on the outside. There was a calm in my eyes. A certainty. That was the moment I realized something important. I wasn't just leaving a marriage. I was becoming independent. And independence felt powerful. The money helped, yes. It gave me safety. It gave me options. But it didn't change who I was. It revealed who I had always been. Careful with it, I planned everything. I set aside savings. I invested in myself. I didn't waste it trying to prove anything. Each choice felt intentional. One evening, while organizing paperwork, I found my grandmother's letter again. I read it slowly. Every word still felt alive. "I hope you're proud of me," I whispered. And for the first time, I truly believed she would be. Then one day, something happened that made my heart race. I got my first small win. It wasn't huge. It wasn't dramatic. But it was mine. Something I built on my own started working. I stared at my screen, disbelief washing over me. I did this, I whispered. No one helped. No one guided me. No one controlled it. Me. I celebrated quietly. A walk in the park. A nice meal. A long bath. I didn't need applause. I needed peace. A few weeks later, I ran into someone who knew him. They hesitated when they saw me, eyes scanning my face like they were looking for signs of damage. You look good, they said carefully. I smiled, I feel good. They nodded, unsure what to say. I didn't ask about him. I didn't care. And that surprised me the most. He no longer lived in my thoughts. The anger had softened. Not into forgiveness. Into indifference. Which was better? One night, sitting on my balcony, I realized something else. I wasn't afraid of being alone anymore. Because I wasn't alone. I had myself. And I was learning to trust her. The woman who once begged for love was gone. In her place stood someone steady. Someone who knew her worth. Someone who understood that love should never feel like survival. I took a deep breath and smiled at the night sky. The betrayal that once felt like the end of my life had become the beginning of it. And I knew, deep in my bones, this was only the start. I didn't expect to see him again. Not like that. Not standing in front of me on a random afternoon, looking like a ghost from a life I no longer lived. It had been almost 6 months since I left. 6 months of silence. 6 months of rebuilding. 6 months of becoming someone new. I was coming out of a small cafe near my apartment, a paper cup of tea warming my hands. The day was bright, the air calm. I was thinking about nothing important, just what to cook for dinner, just how peaceful everything felt. Then I heard my name. Soft at first. Almost unsure. I froze. That voice. I knew it even though I hadn't heard it in a long time. I turned slowly. And there he was. Standing on the sidewalk, hands in his pockets, shoulders tense. He looked thinner, older. His hair wasn't as neat as it used to be. His eyes scanned my face like he was searching for the woman he remembered. He didn't find her. Hey, he said. I didn't answer. I just looked at him. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The world moved around us. Cars passed, people walked by, life continued. Finally, he cleared his throat. You look different. I smiled politely. I am. That seemed to throw him off. He nodded slowly. Yeah, I can see that. I should have walked away. But I didn't. Not because I missed him. But because I wasn't afraid anymore. What do you want? I asked. Straight to the point. No softness. No anger. Just truth. He shifted his weight. I heard you moved nearby. I raised an eyebrow, and I wanted to talk, he said quickly, just for a minute. I looked at my watch. I actually laughed. The old me would have dropped everything. The new me checked her schedule. I have 10 minutes, I said. That's it. Relief flashed across his face. We sat on a bench nearby. The same kind of bench I used to sit on months ago, shaking and broken. Now I sat calmly, my back straight, my tea resting easily in my hands. He looked uncomfortable. I waited. He finally spoke. I messed up. I nodded. Yes, you did. He blinked, surprised by how easily I agreed. I've thought about you a lot, he continued. About us. I didn't respond. Silence made him nervous. He went on. Things didn't work out. I almost smiled. Almost. With her, I asked. He nodded. It wasn't real. I realized that too late. I took a sip of my tea. I'm sorry, he said, for how I treated you, for what I did. I looked at him carefully. This was the moment I once dreamed of. The apology. The regret. The realization. But now, it felt small. I'm glad you see that now, I said calmly. He leaned forward, hope flickering in his eyes. I want to fix things. There it was. I felt nothing. No rush. No fear. No excitement. Just clarity. There's nothing to fix, I said gently. His face fell. What do you mean? I mean, I said, choosing my words carefully, that I already fixed my life. He stared at me. So that's it, you're just done. I nodded, yes. He ran a hand through his hair. You didn't even fight for us. I looked at him then. Really looked. I fought for us for years, I said. You just didn't notice because you were busy choosing yourself. His mouth opened, then closed. I continued, I'm not angry anymore, but I'm not coming back. He shook his head slowly. You changed. I smiled. I healed. Silence stretched between us. Finally, he said quietly, I miss you. I met his eyes. I don't miss who I was with you, I said. That was the truth. He looked down at the ground. I stood up. My 10 minutes are over, I said. He stood too, panic creeping in. Wait, can we at least talk again? I shook my head. No. He looked hurt. Why not? Because I love myself now. But I didn't say that. I just said, because some doors are meant to stay closed. I turned and walked away. My heart was steady. No shaking. No second guessing. As I walked back toward my apartment, I realized something huge. Seeing him didn't reopen wounds. It confirmed how far I had come. That night, I sat on my balcony, watching the city lights flicker on one by one. I thought about the woman I used to be. The woman who waited for apologies. The woman who believed closure came from someone else. I smiled softly. Closure came from me. I didn't need his regret. I didn't need his pain. I had my peace. A week later, I received a message from an unknown number. I knew it was him. I deleted it without opening it. That felt powerful. Days turned into weeks. Weeks into months. My life kept growing. More confidence. More stability. More joy. One evening, as I was walking home, I caught my reflection again in a glass door. I stopped. I looked at myself. And I saw it clearly. I was no longer surviving. I was thriving. The woman who once cried on the kitchen floor on Christmas morning was gone. In her place stood someone strong. Someone free. Someone unafraid to choose herself. I whispered quietly, you did it. And for the first time, I didn't need anyone else to agree. It's strange how life circles back. A year later, Christmas came again. Same season. Same cold air. Same lights in store windows. But I was not the same woman. On Christmas Eve, I stood in my kitchen holding a mug of tea, watching soft snow fall outside my window. My apartment was quiet, warm, and peaceful. A small tree stood in the corner, decorated simply. No pressure, no perfection, just lights and calm. I smiled to myself. A year ago, Christmas broke me. This year, it belonged to me. I sat down on the couch and pulled out my journal, the same one I had started the day I walked away. The pages were full now. Plans, thoughts, lessons, growth, tears that had dried into wisdom. I flipped back to the first page. The handwriting was shaky, the words were unsure. I don't know who I am without him. I closed the journal for a moment and breathed. I knew now. I knew exactly who I was. I was the woman who chose herself when it was hardest. I was the woman who walked away from humiliation and didn't look back. I was the woman who turned betrayal into a beginning. The money had helped, yes. It gave me safety. It gave me space. It gave me time. But it didn't give me strength. The strength was already inside me. I had just forgotten it. That night I cooked dinner for myself. Nothing fancy, just something warm and comforting. I ate slowly, enjoying every bite, not rushing, not worrying about anyone else's mood. After dinner, I wrapped myself in a blanket and sat near the window. The city lights glowed softly. Somewhere out there, families were laughing. Somewhere, people were arguing. Somewhere, hearts were breaking. And somewhere, a woman like the old me was sitting in silence, wondering if she was enough. I wished I could reach her. So instead, I spoke to the quiet room. If you're hurting right now, I whispered, this isn't the end. I thought about that envelope again. The one hidden behind the tree. The one that arrived on the worst day of my life. I used to think the money was the miracle. I was wrong. The miracle was timing. That gift didn't arrive when I was comfortable. It arrived when I was ready to wake up. My grandmother didn't save me with money. She reminded me of my worth. I stood up and walked to a small shelf near the window. On it sat a framed photo of her. I touched the edge gently. "You were right," I said softly. I stopped begging. A quiet pride filled my chest. Later that night, my phone buzzed. A message from a friend. "Merry Christmas, I'm so proud of you." I smiled and typed back. "Merry Christmas, I'm proud of me too." And I meant it. Before bed, I stepped onto the balcony. The air was cold, sharp, alive. I closed my eyes and breathed it in. A year ago, I thought my life was over. I thought being chosen by someone else was the only thing that mattered. I thought love meant endurance. I was wrong. Love means respect. Love means safety. Love means never having to shrink to stay. I opened my eyes and looked at the sky. "Thank you," I whispered, not to fate, not to luck, but to myself. Thank you for leaving. Thank you for staying gone. Thank you for choosing growth over comfort. I went inside, turned off the lights, and lay down in my bed. Peace wrapped around me like a promise. As sleep came, one final thought settled gently in my mind. The Christmas day he cheated didn't destroy my life. It gave it back to me. And if I could leave you with one truth, it's this. Sometimes the worst betrayal is the doorway to your greatest freedom. You don't need someone to save you. You need to believe that you are worth saving. And once you do, nothing can stop you.